Hi, everybody. I'm Nancy. I'm a compulsive overeater. I weigh and measure my 3 meals a day from the gray sheet. I write them down in my book. Here's my book, stays on the counter in the kitchen. Says, I'm all about food. There it is. Call it into my sponsor in the morning on time. I don't eat anything in between, no matter what. And abstinence is the most important thing in my life without exception. And Gray Sheet's the best thing that ever happened to me. I can say that without reservation. I know several of the people on this meeting. I don't know everybody, but maybe half I've seen before. And nice to see some people that I haven't seen in a while. And anyway, I came to Gray Sheet when I was 57 years old. That was 2007. So I'm going to be celebrating in about 3 weeks. If the creeks don't rise, I will be celebrating 17 years of Gray Sheet abstinence, and I have no idea how this time passed. Unbelievable. All I know is that the time, if I hadn't been doing Gray Sheet, the time would have stopped passing a long time ago, because by the time I got here, I was really falling apart. I had spent just how it was before. I grew up as a very overweight kid. You know, fat kids are the brunt of jokes in school all the way through. So I had to deal with that. Like a lot of people, I came from a pretty crazy family. My father was a rageaholic. My mother was depressive. We grew up traveling around. We were in the Air Force. My father was in the Air Force, so I grew up in the States and Japan. It was interesting, but it was hard. So when my father used to go into his rages, I think I just put my head down and put my head in the plate. My sister, on the other hand, got almost died a few times from psychosomatic asthma. That was the way she responded to the crazy in the house. So the best thing to do is just to stay out of the way. So, you know, fat makes you invisible, strangely enough, I have found. So I spent a lot of time, a lot of years, just like everybody else, trying a million different things, you know, multi-shots at Weight Watchers, just, you know, Atkins, the whole thing. Everybody knows it, everybody's done it. And I finally it was about 1986. Actually, it was January 6th, 1986, that I walked into my first OA meeting, and somebody 12-stepped me. And it was kind of funny. It was kind of a funny situation. I didn't really know anything about 12-step programs at that time. So I was 36, and I'm an artist. I was doing pottery in those days, and I was at a craft fair selling my wares, and somebody just 12-stepped me right. You know, some person is supposedly posing as a customer, just 12-stepped me right there. And I thought, well, I've tried everything else. I don't really know anything about 12-step programs except I've heard of AA. So I wasn't a drinker. I wasn't a drugger. It was all about food. That was it. And strangely enough, you would think if you'd met my father, you would have thought that he was a raging alcoholic, but he didn't drink at all. It was really strange. So it was all, you know, mental illness and everything. So in any case, there I was at this craft fair, and she was telling me about the program. So I went to a meeting with her, and I stayed in OA for 11 years. It worked for a while, and then it didn't work for a while, and then it stopped working when there was no more Gray Sheet in OA. I did great on Gray Sheet in OA, and then all of a sudden, you know, it was find your own abstinence, and I'm thinking, yeah, right. If I could find my own abstinence, I wouldn't be here in the first place. But I had been saying for those 11 years, I'm never going to leave OA. I will never leave OA. And I left OA. After 11 years of slipping and sliding and gaining the original weight back that I had lost, I said, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of working on myself. I'm sick of going to therapy. And I just totally threw the baby out with the bathwater. I went out. I went out for 10 long, miserable years. It's a long time to be out in hell, I have to tell you. I do not recommend it. I do not recommend going out to do the research, especially long-term research. It's really, when you come back, it's really rough. It's really rough. So after saying I would never quit OA, I quit OA. 10 years later, as I said, I'm an artist. I ran into two of my friends from my art group that I hadn't seen in a long time. I don't know, years maybe. It was in 2007. And in the space of 2 days, I ran into two of them. They had both changed physically very dramatically. And of course, what do you say to somebody when you see that they've made this huge change? You say, what are you doing, right? Give me the magic. Tell me what the magic bullet is. What's the trick here? And after the second person said to me, I'm going gray sheet, I said, take me to a meeting. I'm ready. At that point, I was losing my mobility. I had to go to an orthopedist. I was having a hard time walking. I was 240 pounds at that point, and just really feeling really quite miserable. And not to mention that both of my parents passed away from all the attenuating circumstances that happen when you live a life of compulsive overeating. They had everything. Between the two of them, they had everything in the diagnostic book, whatever you call that medical book. They had it all kinds of cancer, heart disease, glaucoma, melanoma, blah blah blah. They had everything. They both died of kidney failure in the end. It was hard. So I saw what was going to happen to me. My pathway was laid out. There were my parents. They were going, and it was very unpleasant, to say the least. So when that second person said to me, you know, I go to Gray Sheet, and the first thing I thought was, wow, I didn't know that Gray Sheet was a standalone program. I'd been away for 10 years. I'd been totally out in the desert for 10 years, and I had no idea that Gray Sheet existed as a program on its own. I think if I'd have known that, I probably would have come back a lot earlier. And the other thing that makes me wonder, if I could choose my own abstinence in OA, why didn't I just stay with Gray Sheet and the hell with whatever everyone else said? I often think about that. It was a fine food plan. I mean, it wasn't the same Gray Sheet that we have now, but it was working for me when I was doing it. And anyway, that's neither here nor there. So I decided when my second friend came, I said, okay, I'm getting in the rowboat. Somebody's sending me a rowboat here, and I'm drowning. So I got in, and I walked into my first meeting, and I live in New York. I think the first meeting I went to was probably it was Mineola or Manhasset. The New York people know those places, and I just, boy, I just felt so relieved. I just felt immediate relief. I thought, okay, I can do this. I'm going to do this. Um, I wasn't really happy about it. People tell me that I came in kicking and screaming. I was pretty much a brat and a kind of rebellious and a wise guy and sarcastic, and all the things were going through my head. Oh, this is kind of weird. This is really culty. It's kind of culty. I'm a little bit nervous about it. However, they're not asking me for my firstborn. They're not asking me for my money. They're not asking me to do anything weird to go out and rob banks for them. And the other thing that I saw immediately when I walked in the room was that the word that I always say, I always use is everybody looks shiny. Everybody looked so shiny. And I just felt like a really dull penny. I was really not in good shape. And I thought, well, I really am going to give this a chance. Everybody looks like they're enjoying this. You could feel it. It was tangible. And so I stayed. I stayed. I found this right away, I said, I'm going to get a sponsor before I walk out the door. There were only two sponsors, 5 minutes. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. There were only two sponsors available. I grabbed one of them. I knew she looked at me. She was not, I could tell she wasn't happy. I thought she must have thought, ooh, I've got a live one here and I don't know if I want to deal with her. I kind of don't blame her. But anyway, she was a great sponsor. We totally disagreed on everything in life. We were at total politically everything else at opposite ends of the spectrum, and it meant nothing. She was a great sponsor, and that was all that mattered. And I had to get another sponsor maybe a year later because that one had a slip up, so she had to let go. And I've had, I think in these 17 years I've had three sponsors. Yeah, so it's really been, where am I now? I'm growing up. I'm growing up in Gray Sheet. I'm learning I can't get over it that I'm going to be 74 this year. I don't know how that happened either. But I can't get over how I continue to have these revelations about my life, and it's just kind of blown me away lately. I've done a bunch of AWOLs, and that's the for new folks, that's the a 12-step study group. And I did a really long AWOL a few years ago, maybe about 8 years ago, that was very meaningful for me and helped me heal the rift between my daughter and myself, which was about a 25-year rift. When I got divorced, it was really bad. I only have one kid, and that, oh God, one kid, and I look how it's been. I always tried to make the ball stay in her court, but she was angry, and I was I was trying to control the world. You know how it is. It says it right in the big book. We want to be the director of the show, and people don't like that, and she certainly didn't like it. So it took me a long time to know. One of my sponsees said something interesting the other day. Never miss an opportunity to say nothing. I thought, that is really a great, and that's what I finally learned with my kid. I finally learned to shut up, just say, great. She comes to me with some cockamamie idea, and I just say, well, why don't you give it a shot, see how it turns out. And that's kind of my motto. I've just, my kid is going to be 50 this year, so she's not a kid. Can't believe that either. So anyway, I look up after all these years in Gray Sheet, doing AWOLs, weighing and measuring 3 times a day, calling somebody in the morning for almost 17 years. That is the craziest thing I ever heard. And it works. And I have tried to stay on the Gray Sheet bus. It took me a long time to feel a part of, a long time to feel community. I feel it now. I think that people would help me the way I've helped other people. We help each other when things happen, health issues, what other issues, traveling, all the different ways of getting through life, the things that happen. People die, people get divorced, kids do crazy things. It's an amazing school, the School of Gray Sheet. There's a lot to learn here. And so it just keeps on going. I'm going away. I'm doing a lot of traveling this year. This is crazy. I'm going to the Irish Roundup. I can't believe it. And I'm going to in April. I'm going to Illinois to visit my sister because the full solar eclipse is going over there in southern Illinois. And she said, "This is a once in a lifetime thing, Nance. You've got to see it." And from there, I'm going to visit my daughter in Colorado, up in the Rockies. She lives 7,700 feet up in the Rockies. And then I'm going to Ireland in August. And then in September, I'm going to Japan for 6 weeks to do an artist retreat. I'm already thinking about the food and thinking about how much work it's going to be, but I'm going to do it. I've done it before. And I mean, you talk about a life beyond your wildest dreams, My sponsor got sick recently, and I'm sort of waiting for her to get back together. But oh, is that time? I'll just make it quick. Uh, but her being sick made me realize that if you want to do something, you have to do it now. So I decided, because of her, this is my year of yes, and that's why I'm doing all this crazy stuff. And I'll just pack my back up and get on the plane, and I'm a happy, satisfied customer, Gray Sheet customer. So please don't go, please stay. It's the best thing that will ever happen to you. Thanks.